So I just spent a year and a half waiting on this Rolex Daytona Artisans de Geneve. We fully designed this watch from start to finish. So we're gonna go through the full process of what that looked like, why we made the decisions we made. And at the end of the video, I'm gonna give you a full price breakdown on what it took to create this awesome piece. All right, so if you guys don't know what Artisans de Geneve is, it's a manufacturer in Switzerland that basically you send a watch to and they can design from start to finish everything that you dreamed of. Typically, they do challenges. So with Artisans, they will partner up with an influencer or someone famous and they will create a design for that person, and then they'll do like a limited run. So most of their watches, they may do like 20 pieces, 50 pieces to the public. I came across one about 2 or 3 years ago that I didn't know what the challenge was. I bought it kind of blindly from a dealer friend of mine. It came in and the back of it said piece unique. So I was very intrigued. I didn't know they did piece uniques. I have since seen a couple of them pop up. So it seems to be something that they're doing a little bit more normally. After I saw that, I reached out to them, asked them what the process was. I didn't hear back for a while. I reached out to them again, and then they said, okay, hey, write a bio on yourself. Tell me kind of what you do, why you want one. And we started that process of kind of the application process on, a piece unique. I don't know if that is still a thing, but this was about a year and a half ago at this point. So told them everything, told them I was watch dealer, told them that I had already bought and sold quite a few of the Artisans products. And it really started going high on my list. I mean, I kind of viewed these things as custom pieces. In the world of watch dealers, I kind of shy away from typically the custom watch world. Now I used to do some manufactured like iced out goods and stuff like that in the past, but this really started to intrigue me, and it's actually very well respected within the industry of collectors that already have a lot of products that are getting into really cool things that are different from the normal things. You know, people are getting into these independent companies once they already have their Rolex collection, they already have their AP, their Patek collection, and they're looking for something different. So that's what I was kind of experiencing working in this industry, buying and selling watches every single day. If I want to wear a Daytona, I'll wear a Daytona. If I want to wear a sub or a Patek or an AP, I have that opportunity to get something in now that I'm not a little bit numb to and that I get super excited about was this watch. So every time I got one, I was just looping it, I was looking at it. The fit and finish was unbelievable. You know, when I thought that I had the opportunity of speccing one out and the exact colors and really getting into the design process, that was just like awesome to me. So we'll start taking you through kind of where we started and go from there. So we started off with my Oyster Flex Daytona white gold. Was the original donor watch that I thought I was going to use on this. I really liked a couple of their challenges that they did with the Daytona with the rose gold movement. But I wanted the company colors to be on there. So I said, let's do a green ceramic, tie in as much green and orange as possible. This to me was a little bit odd on the rubber strap, on the black rubber strap for the Oyster Flex. So then I started thinking, okay, what if I did a white gold Daytona on a bracelet? This was right about the time that they discontinued the blue dials and I believe the ghost dial and the John Mayer. So I was about to pull the trigger on a white gold on a bracelet because I thought that that would be appropriate for kind of how high value the watch is to have a precious metal. And then right before I was going to buy one, they discontinued the watch and prices shot up about $10,000, and then it kind of just sucked the fun out of me getting that watch, and it was a good excuse to stick with stainless steel. So we kind of ditched the Oyster Flex design and just stuck with the stainless steel design. Yeah, obviously you guys might not be familiar with the process, but you actually purchase a watch. You cannot have Artisans provide the watch for you. So that's what I mean when I say donor watch, is I actually went out, I purchased this watch, and that is why I was kind of thinking of the Oyster Flex originally, because I already had the watch in hand, but I just think it made more sense to go with the stainless steel version. That is what we started with. We started with the 116500 black dial, and I went ahead and purchased one of those for myself on the pre-owned market in really good condition, and that's what we used for the donor. So after we kind of decided not to go with the Oyster Flex, we started the design process on the stainless steel watch on the bracelet. we can always add the rubber straps, which we did. We hopped over to the stainless steel design. So onto the stainless steel design. I thought the last design was a little bit too much green, so we changed the kind of like, I call it the frame of the dial, where the sub dials are and everything like that. And the rehaul, it was, we went with black. So I really liked this design at first. We, from there, swapped over to the crown and the pushers. I wanted to go off of one of the designs that they had done previously, which is this red and black design that I thought was really cool with the black crown. And I said, all right, let's do that, but instead of the red, let's do the little touch of orange to kind of pull it all in and have a little bit of the black. From there, really liked kind of the flow of the dial and everything like that. I thought it was about as good as it could get with as much black as we were pulling in. But we ended up making a couple different changes. But from there, I thought I was pretty confident. So I gave them the approval on that, and later on changed my mind. I'll show you in just a second. But from there, we started working on the case back. So I really liked the Piece Unique 1 of 1 on the case back. So I'll show you guys here. The WYW we wanted to tie in, and I wanted it to be semi-low key, but also wanted to incorporate some colors. So they were kind of playing around with what would be possible on the color aspect of it. So that was the first design. We then went and got a design like this with like a green anodized look to the rotor. And this is what we kind of landed on. We didn't know how hard it was going to be. They had not done a rotor in an anodized color as well as a gold piece to the rotor. So basically we have a stainless steel rotor, but then we had the WYW that we wanted to incorporate in it. So we kind of committed to that being the look, and this was one thing that delayed the process quite a bit because we didn't know that it was going to be so hard to have two different metals on one process. I believe, don't hold me to it, but I believe the anodizing process does require quite a bit of heat. So they ended up doing the anodizing process, and then I believe they inlaid the gold into the WYW, which I thought was really cool. And it's kind of secretive on the back. You know, we didn't do any branding or anything on the front. I didn't think I wanted to take anything away from the front of the dial. And you know, I'm never selling this piece, so this is kind of just to commemorate where we're at in business, and you know, have our initials on the side. I say R, my son's initials is RDA as well, so to have my initials, his initials on the back was kind of cool. And so that is what we ended up with design-wise for the back of the dial. So at this point, the watch is in production. We're waiting, it's been 6 months or so, and I had a kind of a meeting, a dinner with a friend of mine that I respect down in Miami, and I was showing him this watch and showing him the design of it. And when he saw the frame, the black frame, I showed him the watch, he's like, man, that's really cool, but I could see on his face there was something that he saw that I didn't see. And I said, I can tell you have something in your mind. He's like, well, did you already give him the go-ahead? And I said, yep, it's pretty much like, should be done in the next month or two. He said, man, I think the framing on the dial is taking away from the dial itself. So he said, what if you could just take that away? And then we started talking about, well, what if we can make it transparent like a sapphire? So I was like, okay, I know kind of what you're saying. If it was see-through, it wouldn't take it away. So I reached back out to Artisans to see if it was too late, and they said, yes, the dial is done, and they sent me a picture of it. And I said, well, great, that sucks. What if we changed it? Can you give me a new design on if we made this transparent? Because it was really bugging me after he pointed it out. I completely agreed with him 100%. And so we went back and they designed this with all the clear sub dials and everything around it being clear, and I really think that it didn't take away from the dial, and I loved it. So unfortunately got hit a little bit more on that, which we'll go over in the pricing breakdown, but I think it was well worth it to have the details of the dial not being blocked by anything. From there we went to figuring out the lume. We kind of started by just seeing what information on the dial wanted to stand out in the dark. I really like some of their latest challenges that have a ton of lume on it. Unfortunately, when you have that much lume, you start to cover up the movement, and I really wanted it to stay skeleton. So we didn't do anything too crazy on the lume. We dipped the hands, which were the sword hands, which, by the way, I didn't know they were going to do, and we'll show some shots of this. The hands are actually like a 2 finished metal. So on one side it's like sandblasted, and then right down the center they polished it. This was something that, and this is why I love Artisans so much, this is something after the watch was completely done and we were trying to figure out how to, you know, at what point they could ship it back. I stocked a Vacheron that had the same style of hands, and I was like, oh my goodness, I will absolutely would have loved to do my hands this way, because just the attention to detail and the way it stood out was so awesome. But I was like, oh, it's too late, whatever. Well, it came in exactly like that, which I was so happy to see. That was something that we didn't discuss, but like I said, the attention to detail is just awesome on it. So I love the hands on it. So we dipped the tip of the hands, you know, the numbers on the subdials and the little hour markers around. So it looks really good at night. We'll include this picture. You've probably already seen it on the screen of the loom design. But that was pretty much it. We're real happy with changing the dial, and then it was just kind of waiting for the watch to come in. So waiting the time was what sucked, but also what was kind of fun with the process, because typically in this business, like when I see a watch that I like, we kind of snap our fingers. I'm like, well, let's stock it, and then we find one and it's here the next day. So kind of the torture around the process of waiting was what kind of built the anticipation. So they were teasing me along the way. You know, they sent me pictures with the movement, you know, and they're like, oh, we just got done with the movement, check this out. And, you know, even down to the things of on this movement, they ask, what color rotor do you want? What color, you know, balance wheel do you want? Do you want sandblasted rose gold finish? Do you want brushed rose gold finish? So all of that kind of stuff along the way was really cool to kind of have a say in. So they sent me pictures of the movements, and then they said, okay, now we're done with the pushers. Now we're done with the bezel. And, you know, we went back and forth on the color of green that we chose with the bezel too. I didn't want it to be like lime green. It's kind of hard in general to find the color green that we use a lot, which is like an olive green, to not look too like mustard, like a mustard color or a lime color. So I think we chose the perfect color. It kind of looks black in low light, but in the sun it's 100% green. And then they just kept sending pictures of the case being done, the crown being done, the bracelet being done, which they sandblasted the high polished areas and went to just a brush finish, which I really like. I'm pretty OCD myself, so for my watches to stay fairly clean, because I do wear my watches a lot, and you know, I might wear them doing certain things, scratching them up, that kind of thing. The high polish always gets pretty much demolished. You know, that finish was really cool. So, you know, another cool thing was they would send me pictures of like the hands on the watch, and they say, okay, hey, we just got done with the hands, and they send me a picture of like 10 hands lined up. And I'm like, well, why is there 10 of them? They're like, well, we make stuff in batches, because the artisans will sit down and choose like the perfect one. So they'll be like, hey, we finally got a batch that was perfect enough for our artisans to choose. And then I'll be like, okay, cool, so what's the update now? Or a week later, they'll be like, hey, we had to redo the hands. They saw something on the underside of them that, you know, they weren't happy with. So like, I would say on probably like 5 or 6 different occasions, there was some delays because of how picky, thankfully, that they are of choosing the pieces that get manufactured. You know, on the case back, there was a couple things, the hands were a couple things, and just different pieces that they would show me if the paint didn't lay on perfectly, or when they dipped the loom, if it came off crooked, or just different things like this. They would trash them, they'd restart. So, you know, that was a really cool process. I'm, like I said, very OCD. So to loop this watch and to be happy with the end product is, I think, speaks volumes of how careful they are with the whole process. And I think that's why they're so well respected within the collector community, because it's not just something that they're like, oh, let's, you know, do this or let's do that, let's throw some paint on this, or different things. They really take their time, and I think it's well worth the wait. So overall, I think the entire process of designing it did meet my expectations. I'd say it was about a 9 out of a 10 on the start to finish process. I will say a couple things that I'll hit on that I was kind of a little like about during the process was, first, the time it took. I think when we started, it was about like an 8 or 9 month process and turned into a 1.5 years. So nothing really that I would say that I was upset about as far as that goes. And then also, we had quite a bit of turnover in that amount of time. I got handed off to a lot of different people, and there was some communication that I had to just kind of re-go over. So when you're spending this amount of time with somebody, to get handed off from person to person, I think on 3 different occasions, and try and kind of restart. The good thing is the designs are saved and that kind of thing, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And then lastly, if I'm being picky just for video's sake, you know, I really wanted a custom box. You know, you're spending all this money on the custom watch, and they said, okay, well, we're gonna give you this piece unique box. And I'm like, okay, well, all right, I want this color, I want this suede inside. And they're like, oh, well, we don't do that. I'm like, well, then how's it a piece unique box if it's the same? They said, well, all piece uniques get the same box. And it has the plate on the front of it that says piece unique, which is cool. But I also thought that it would have been cool to have, you know, a box in that color. I offered to pay. I said, well, just tell me how much it is. And they said, oh, okay, well, I'll check. And that was a 2 or 3 week process of going back and forth. They said, no, there's nothing we can do, which I thought was odd for them to be able to do all of this stuff and the cool things on the watch, but not to get a box in the color that you wanted. It was a little different, you know, something I wasn't expecting. But hey, you know what? At the end of the day, we're buying the watch, not the box. So that's what I cared most about. And but overall, the process was good. I thought it was fun. I had a lot to say. I didn't feel like they kind of chose anything with the exception of the box, and I think it turned out great. So without further ado, let's take a look. All right, so you guys been sticking around the whole time, so let's give you this pricing breakdown. Started off with 11,6500 LN black dial Daytona. At the time, market was quite a bit higher. I sourced one just to get the process started at $24,000, which was a secondary market wholesale pricing. At the time, it was a 2021, it was in mint condition, unpolished, and that is what I used. It had the warranty card originally with it. I just want to make sure everything was good, clean on the watch. That is what I used. So $21,000 for the donor watch. From there, we had to send a deposit to Artisans in the amount of $24,260 in Swiss francs. That correlates to $26,922.35 currently for US dollars. So $27,000 roughly for the deposit to basically get the design process started and go back and forth for however long that it took, which was about 6 months of the designing process. After that, that is when we had the kind of change of my mind on the dial. So because the other dial was completely made, they charged 5,500 Swiss francs, which ends up being $6,103 US dollars. After that, that was the first half of the deposit, and then remaking the dial. Then we just have the back half of the deposit, which is still the 24,260 Swiss francs, which is a grand total of, with the watch, with the dial, with the first deposit and the second deposit, $90,051 for the Artisans Daytona. All right, so that's pretty much it, $90,000. You guys tell me down below in the comments whether or not that you think it's worth getting something fully custom, piece unique done for yourself would be worth that, or if you think there's other things out in the market in that price range that is better value for you yourself. I mean, like I said, I really like it. I think that it's an awesome watch and I really enjoyed the process. Some of the other Artisans models, like the Submariner shown earlier, this watch is probably in that $50,000 price range. That's what we've sold quite a few of them for. I think the value add for the Daytona, I've sold quite a few of these in that $80,000 market range. I know of people that have sold them for well over 100, and this is for challenges that they pumped out, not piece uniques. So I think that there's not a ton of value add, which is sometimes the scary part about the custom watches in general. But tell me what you think. Subscribe for more, like the video if you can, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them down in the comments, and we'll be looking through them and responding as quick as we can. But appreciate it again. See you guys soon.